we have achieved much in our 50-year history. But what fills us with pride is being part of so many special moments in so many lives.
É uma surpresa, né? Eu não sabia que tantos produtos que a minha mãe compra lá em casa fossem da PepsiCo. Eu não imaginava, muito legal.
Pra mim é um melhor que o outro, né? Eu já começo o dia com a minha aveia quaker, um todinho, às vezes tomo até 2. Final de semana, depois do exercício, sempre tomo, quero coco, Gatorade. Eu sou um aficionado mesmo.
A gente gosta bastante lá em casa, a gente está sempre comprando. E, por exemplo, dependendo do produto, se é uma H2O, um todinho, essas coisas, a gente tem que esconder, porque senão, bobeou, você chega em casa já não existe mais.
We know that among the main characters in this success story are the people who take our brands to millions of homes each day.
Pão de Açúcar e PepsiCo são empresas que têm valores muito semelhantes. Foco no cliente, pensar em venda, relação ganha-ganha. O negócio tem que ser feito quando é bom para as duas empresas.
Você tem um parceiro que tem um nome no mercado, você tem respaldo nas negociações, então realmente é um sucesso ter a PepsiCo como parceira.
O processo com eles, na verdade, foi sempre de uma parceria no sentido do desenvolvimento do nosso negócio, não simplesmente o fornecimento de produtos.
Essa parceria, essa união, tudo é consequência de um trabalho muito bem realizado.
Acho que a PepsiCo tem essas marcas valorizadas e isso vem bastante de encontro, né, às nossas necessidades e demandas.
Então, eu vou ter todinho, vou ter água de coco, a gente consegue englobar num único fornecedor diversos tipos de produto e fazendo com que o nosso cliente fique satisfeito.
And behind each consumer's choice is the passion and engagement of our partners.
A integridade é algo que sempre eu encontrei muito em todas as relações com a PepsiCo. Respeito pelos profissionais, respeito pelas pessoas. Então me sinto muito à vontade e muito bem trabalhar com a PepsiCo porque é uma relação muito forte entre nossos valores e os valores da PepsiCo.
É um prazer trabalhar com a PepsiCo. A história das duas empresas se confunde. Começamos lá atrás, em 1982, com um produto que virou ícone de categoria, né? O todinho é referência de categoria. Eu fui consumidor quando pequeno, continuo sendo, meus filhos são. É um prazer muito grande ter a PepsiCo como cliente nosso.
A nossa parceria com a PepsiCo iniciou-se nos anos 90. É uma parceria sólida que só tende a continuar crescendo.
A gente contribui com a marca de verdade, nós somos iguais, trabalhando em prol de uma marca da PepsiCo especificamente.
É uma empresa assim que dá prazer de trabalhar.
We really value our long-term partnership and congratulations for your 50th anniversary.
This is PepsiCo's anniversary. But congratulations goes to all those who dedicate their lives to making the magic of our business come true.
Parabéns, PepsiCo.
Parabéns, PepsiCo.
Parabéns. Parabéns, PepsiCo.
Parabéns, PepsiCo.
Congratulations, PepsiCo.
Good afternoon, all of you. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Oscar Vilhena Vieira. I'm the Dean of this law school. For us, it's an immense pleasure to receive Tony West here and his team. I see it's a large team that is following you. And I'm pretty glad we had your president at our business school, I think a month ago. And it was a wonderful opportunity, not just to understand PepsiCo, but also for the students to understand what is to be in charge of a company with that complexity, a company that serves people, that produce what is on the table of people every day, which acts in so many countries with so many different products. So it was a wonderful experience to have her. And we felt that your presence here would also fulfill one of the needs of our students to understand what is to be a legal officer at this level in a company like this. As we know, Tony West, you received some information about him. He has studied both at Harvard and Stanford. He also served as under Attorney General in the United States. He has worked and experienced in private law firms, and in 2014 he joined this company and is in charge both for the legal area, for the government area, and also for compliance, which is something of a lot of interest today, not just around the globe, but in Brazil specifically, in the context that we are living. So if you could, I'm already putting questions for you. If you could touch a little bit on all the challenges of being linked to all these spheres would be wonderful. So thank you very much again. It's really a privilege to have you here. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks so much, Dean. I appreciate it. Thank you. So let me do this. By a show of hands, how many of you are law students? Okay. Of course, the law students are always the ones that sit in the back. You know, that's why. So this is our Brazil team in the first two rows, who we love and who do make all of this happen. They heard me speak this morning, so they will not find it rude if I direct my comments to you, because the reason I'm really here is to talk to you all about some of the choices you're facing, about some of the things you're thinking about as you decide, you know, what your career is going to look like. And I want to talk with you a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about, you know, my career path, but I really want to hear what's on your mind, and to the extent that I can be of any help as you kind of think through all of the options that you have as a law student. And so for me, you know, it's interesting. I've been at PepsiCo only for a year now, so I still feel very new. And I have spent, as the dean said, I've spent a good deal of time doing different things in my legal career. And most recently, for the 5.5 years before I came to PepsiCo, I was in the Obama administration as a senior official in the Department of Justice, and dealt with all kinds of interesting issues, issues of public corruption, issues of financial fraud, civil rights. It was really, for me, a real opportunity to engage in public service, which is one of the main reasons why I went to law school in the first place. And so, I've been able to have that type of career, but I was also able for a number of years to be in a law firm. How many of you are working in or will be going to a law firm? Yeah? Yeah. Or are you thinking about it? Yeah. Thinking maybe. All right. You keep your options open. That's important. All right. And so I spent 8 years in a private law firm. Really, and I think it's a great place to really learn how to be a lawyer, and I certainly learned an awful lot. But I also spent many years as a public prosecutor, so I was also in the courtroom an awful lot. Publicly prosecuting crimes and whatnot. So I've had this career that's gone, both in the private sector and in the public sector, and then most recently, the reason I decided to leave the Department of Justice and go to a place like PepsiCo was for a number of reasons. One, it was an incredible opportunity to learn what it's like to be an in-house lawyer at a Fortune 50 corporation, one of the largest companies in the world. It was the opportunity not only to learn that, but also to go to a place that had a great reputation for really high, strong ethical values, very strong code of conduct that we have at the company, and that was very important to me, to be able to work at a place that I could be proud of working at every single day, right? And so it really gave me an opportunity to do many things other than simply practice law. So, of course, as a general counsel, I advise the CEO, Indra Nooyi, and the board of directors on all kinds of legal issues. But I wear a lot of different hats. I'm also the head of our PepsiCo Foundation. That's our charitable giving arm that looks for ways in which to enrich the community and really kind of make sure the company is living its values. I'm also the head of our public policy and government affairs shop. So when we think about the regulatory challenges which are facing business generally, but certainly our business, as people, consider move to more healthy options, and as we see regulatory pressures and tax pressures all over the world, when we see some of the macroeconomic challenges that we see, not just here in Brazil, but really in all of the major markets that we're in. Biggest international market is Russia, where we have sanctions clearly, economic challenges there. China, where growth is slowing. So, as the head of the Public Policy and Government Affairs shop, those issues are issues that I think about, and with a great team of people, try to make sure we're on the front edge of. But as the dean mentioned, I'm also the head of our compliance and ethics shop, and this is really important because, particularly when times are tough, it's really important that you have a set of values, a code of conduct that you are always true to. It's your true north, so that as times get tough, you're not tempted to take shortcuts. And that code of conduct and those ethical values are very, very important to the company. It's very important to our reputation. It really, I think, in many ways, defines who we are as a company. I think it helps to set us apart. And so being the person who is ultimately responsible for making sure we have a culture in which we're living those values is another one of my jobs. And so, I've got all of these different jobs as the general counsel, which, frankly, I would not have anticipated when I was in law school, when I was thinking about what I was going to do. In fact, I would never have predicted sitting where you all are sitting now. I would have predicted that I would have ended up in this job. But I find that, a career that has given me the opportunity to learn lots of different areas of the law, lots of different skills, that's prepared me well to be able to kind of move through different types of areas. That is what's, for me, has prepared me for this challenge, which is interesting and fun and different every single day. And so that's how I spend my days. But one of the main reasons I wanted to make sure I came by here, and this is I can't remember in the last year how many countries I visited, but I've been looking forward to coming to Brazil for a very long time. It's my first trip to Brazil. Won't be my last. Coming back. This is an all right place. The other thing about my job is I'm just sort of thinking through, as you're dealing with the challenges, it's the kind of job that it really matters to be able to kind of see how things are unfolding on the ground. And so, while I'm in Brazil today, I'll be in Argentina on Friday. A week ago, I was in Russia and China. We've been to Bangladesh, to India, to Africa, to Egypt, to Saudi Arabia. All markets where we have interests and important things going on. And so that kind of experience, I think, for me, has been enriching and exciting, complex, but always something new. So, hi guys, welcome. So that's what I do in a nutshell. But like I said, I'm really interested in kind of hearing from you guys and hearing what's on your mind and what you're thinking about, and whether you would think about joining a company in-house for a legal experience, or whether you're thinking of other options. I know you have lots of options. We've already established that. But what's on your minds? I wanted to go into public service. I was really interested in politics and policy. And so when I went to law school, I was really very interested in public service. And I think what I discovered was, once I got the law degree, it gave me the flexibility to kind of use that law degree in public service. And so, my first real job out of law school was working for the then Attorney General of the United States, Janet Reno, in the Department of Justice in Washington. And she was a very important figure in my life. But she helped me to not only think about my role as a lawyer and what that meant, but also how I could use my law degree as a way of public service. And so that's what I was thinking about when I wasn't thinking about PepsiCo. So I worked for Janet Reno for about a year and a little bit, and then I went to California, which is where I'm from, where I was born and raised, and I was a public prosecutor. I was a federal prosecutor there, and I was a prosecutor for 5 years. And after that, I went into private practice. I went to a law firm where I was at a law firm for 8 years. And then, well, no, actually, so I was in the law firm for 8 years, and I was advising clients, and I was doing both corporate, but also I represented individuals too, who got into a little bit of trouble with the law. Happens from time to time. Everybody makes mistakes. But I had a practice which had individuals and I did that for 8 years, and it was at the end of that where President Obama asked me to join his administration. And so then I spent another 5.5 years back in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Department of Justice, which is where I was right before I came to PepsiCo a year ago. Yeah, it is increasingly common for people to have a career that goes back and forth between public and private, between those two sectors. I would say that when I started, it wasn't as common, but I think it is increasingly common. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. I think, one, you just gain valuable insight, and I think it helps you to do your job, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector. You can do it better if you've had experience on the other side, essentially, or in another capacity. So that's important. I think it's also more common now because how many of you are between 21 and, say, 35 years old? All right, yeah, so, and then some of you are even younger than that. Well, you guys are millennials, right? Okay, and for millennials, I think one of the hallmarks of that generation is the ability to have, you will not be in one job your entire life. You will be in very many jobs. That your career will be defined by many different professional experiences. And that's a good thing because it will help you to be versatile to deal with some very big problems, complex problems that society faces, that whatever organization you're a part of will face. And I think so as we have more millennials coming into the workforce and defining work and defining what it means to have a career, I think you see more people moving in and out of the different sectors.
And what's the difference between being a lawyer in a law firm and being a lawyer in an enterprise?
I would say that there is the difference, the sort of the defining difference, which is when you're in a law firm, you have either associates or partners, and you have many different clients. You will be able to represent individuals. You represent many different companies. Maybe you have a specialty like intellectual property or whatever it is. But you have many different clients. When you're with an enterprise, you have one client. My client is PepsiCo. That's my single client. And as a lawyer, all of the decisions I make and all of the judgments I make have to be in the best interests of that client. So that's the main difference.
Tony, can I ask you?
Yeah.
A lot of PepsiCo is a... Hello? It's working, yeah? PepsiCo as a company faces external challenges, many of them. But can you talk a bit about the challenges you face internally on a typical day? There's no such thing as a typical day for you, but in terms of negotiating positions, your views, dealing with your peers in different functions of the company, dealing with the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a bit about that type of dynamics? The internal dynamics that you have to manage to as well and go through each day.
Well, I think your role as a lawyer, this is going to be true whether you're in a law firm or you're in a company. Your role as a lawyer is really as a trusted counselor, a trusted advisor. People are going to you for advice. They're going to you for guidance. Often they have a problem that needs to be solved. Often it is a hard problem, or they wouldn't be coming to you, right? They'd solve it themselves. And so, as lawyers, we actually have a unique role to play as problem solvers and as counselors. And that relationship is a very important relationship. And so I think, on a daily basis, to be able to play that role and to play it well, I think is challenging enough because, I play that role not only for my CEO, but for all of the management team, for the board of directors. So that's, always a challenge. But then I think on top of that, as head of the public policy and government affairs function, having to really always be attuned to what's going on in the world. What's happening with the price of the ruble, the fact that it's, continuing to be devalued. And then what happens in the Middle East when, Russia begins to get involved in the Syrian conflict, and how will that impact commodity prices, right? Because there's more uncertainty and more volatility. Thinking about that, and then thinking about what happens when Mexico puts a peso per liter tax on a lot of our products, and how do you negotiate that, and how do you make sure that we're actually changing the products that we offer. I love these products, but we also have to make sure we're offering more nutritious options for people, because that's where the consumer is moving around the world. How do we do that in a responsible way, still deliver performance, because after all, our investors buy us because they want a return. So how do we ensure that we are, still driving performance, yet changing the portfolio and making sure we're offering what the consumer wants? Being a part of all of that, I would say, is both challenging and exhilarating. But that is what a typical day, brings. That and talking to folks like you, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good day. It's an excellent question, because we have to deal with it all the time. So on the human rights side, it's very important that not only we have values that the company has to adhere to, and as all of us as employees of the company that we believe in, but it's important that the suppliers that we work with also reflect those values. And so we have a process in place where we vet, or we examine our suppliers to make sure that the products that they are selling to us are products that aren't harvested as a result of any type of human rights abuse, child labor, things like that. Making sure that they themselves have high standards and values in the way that they operate. It's called our sort of third-party due diligence. That's what we call it, a due diligence process. And we have what's called a supplier code of conduct. We have a code of values that we want our suppliers to adhere to. So that's how we try to get our arms around that issue, because it's very important. I mean, we want to make sure we know, as a very large buyer of commodities around the world, that we can actually influence behavior by what we choose to buy and what we choose not to buy, which, by the way, is another incredible benefit to being an in-house lawyer, right? I mean, you actually are able to impact these other issues that you care about because of in ways like this. With regard to the products, portion control is important. Always. Look, I think, I'm very proud of our portfolio of products, because I think there's a time and place. I mean, I think, it's important, people can enjoy things at different times. I would not recommend that, we have a Pepsi in the morning for breakfast, right? You want something else, right? So, although I know law students sometimes do that. But I do think part of it is making sure that you, as a consumer now, right, if you're a mother, or a parent, or if you're someone who is health conscious, you as a consumer, I want you to be able to look to our portfolio of products and find something that works for you. Find something that you want and that you will turn to when you're in that time, whether it's in the morning, you're trying to get something that gives you energy, that's nutritious, so you can get out and go, or whatever the occasion is. And so, for us, what we do is we spend a lot of time, and this is part of what we call performance with purpose. It's not just about how you make money, but how you spend money, but how you make the money you spend. We want to make sure that there's this portfolio of products which meet all of these different needs. And so business transformation is a big part of the company. It's a big part of the business. And it's a big reason why I came to PepsiCo as opposed to going someplace else. Because I found that people were serious about that this was important to them, and that there was active work going on in this arena. All right? Yes, and then we'll come to you. Hi.
Nowadays in Brazil, so nowadays in Brazil, we are facing a scenario where major companies are involved in corruption cases, right? So being the head legal of a major company, what would you say are good mechanisms to prevent companies to be involved in corruption cases?
It's a great question. When I was at the Department of Justice and I was prosecuting those companies, the question that we would often ask ourselves when we were looking at a particular enforcement action, or we were trying to figure out, how much of a fine should someone pay, or should they be referred to criminal prosecution, or what have you, was what kind of culture does that company have? And by that I mean, is this a company that, every 3 years you see them back in the courtrooms because they keep violating the law, or they keep doing things which are not ethical, what we call a recidivist? Do they keep coming back, making the same mistakes over and over again because people don't take ethical values seriously? Or is it a company that you would never think was in trouble? It got in trouble because some mistake, something happened, but that's not who they are at their core, right? And for those companies that had a real culture problem, we would deal with them differently at the Department of Justice. We would look for ways, because we felt it was important for them to fix that culture. So your question of what causes that and what can you do about it, I think the most important way that you safeguard against that is by having a culture in which every single person feels responsible for being part of an ethical enterprise, right? It's not just a rule that you follow. It's because you are working and coming to work every day, taking responsibility for helping to make this an ethical company. And that means doing more than just what's in your job description, right? It means doing what's in your job description, but it also means being willing, if you see something that's not right, if you see something that's not ethical, being willing to do what we call reporting up the ladder, being willing to tell your supervisor and to continue to raise that issue until it gets addressed. It means that you have to always be cognizant that you are yourself modeling the behavior that you want others in the company to follow. So, those rules or those values, it's not enough simply to talk about them. You actually have to model them and live them yourself. And so that's really the way I think you begin to change corporate culture. And that's where I think you begin to insulate yourself from, as an organization, from some of those things. And then, of course, having a very strong set of values that you communicate throughout the enterprise is very important. We have a code of conduct. You can actually go to our website and see our code of conduct, and you can see the kinds of values that we believe in as a company. And we're serious. We train everybody in the company on that. I mean, you think about it. We not only train sort of the frontline junior employee who just got hired last week, we train everybody from that person all the way up to the board of directors. Every member of the board of directors, including the chairman and CEO, every year has to get trained on our code of conduct and our ethics. I just did mine, as a matter of fact. So we take it seriously. there we go.
You said that you changed jobs sometimes in your life, and I wanted to know, how did you know that it was the right time? You know, weren't you afraid of changing jobs? Because I always keep thinking, what if I don't like what I would do, and I want to change, and what's the right time, and how?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you know the right time when it's time to change jobs? It's not the time for me right now, by the way. Just so you know, I'm happy. You know, that is, I like to say timing is everything in life. I think for me, it's when you stop learning new things, when you feel like, you stop feeling like you're adding value to whatever it is you're doing. So if you get to the point where I don't feel like I'm learning anything new, and I'm not really adding value to the colleagues and to the community that I'm a part of, well, then maybe it's time for you to go do something else. Use your talents. And that's just for me, it's an internal company. I don't know if there's I know there's usually after I'm in a job for about 3 years or so, I begin to, just sort of do a mental check. Am I still learning new things? Am I still adding value? Does it matter that I am here doing this job, right? And, if the answer to that is yes, you kind of keep going, but you figure it out. You figure it out. You kind of know internally. But it's a great question. And it's, for you and for everybody in the room who have many years of a career ahead of them, it's an important question. I do think one of the things that's important when you think about that question, though, is not to be afraid to take your own advice, your own counsel, to listen to yourself when you're getting that internal feeling and message that it's time to make a change, not to be afraid to do that. That can be hard, actually, because people value security, right? And so I think sometimes it takes a little bit of courage to be able to say, I'm going to leave something I know, even though I know I'm not really enjoying it, I'm not learning anything, I'm not adding value, right? And I'm going to do something I don't know because I think I may have an opportunity to make a better and a bigger difference. The question is, what's the best part and the worst part of my job being part of one of the largest companies? The best part is clearly the variety of issues I get to deal with and the people I get to interact with. I mean, this is great. Being able to engage in issues that matter, right? Whether we're talking about human rights on one day, or we're talking about water scarcity on another day, which is another issue that you're dealing with here, or you're dealing with regulatory challenges on another day, right? To be able to travel, I've traveled more in the last year than I've traveled in my entire life, and to meet people from different cultures and different countries, that has been just an incredible experience for me. And the people in the team, it's an incredible array of talent we have at our company, and so it makes me very proud to be a part of it. I think the worst thing is that I wish I didn't need to sleep, because I don't get much of it, I think that's, somebody told me, actually before I took this job, that he himself had been a general counsel. He told me that the worst thing, the best thing and the worst thing about being a general counsel was the same thing, and that is you have one client. Some days it's great, and other days you only got one client. There's no place to go. You've just got to, so. Yeah.
How was your experience working under the Obama administration?
Okay, how was my experience working in the Obama administration? It was great. I loved it. I loved every single day. Even the tough days were great days. I loved being a part of the administration. I loved being in public service, dealing with, I think were issues that touched a lot of people's lives. And so it was a great honor and a great privilege to be a part of the administration. So to the extent that you ever have the opportunity, I think, to be in public service, I always highly recommend it. Better, okay. So we'll try to wrap that all. Yeah, it's the same. Well, I mean, so honestly, I don't think it's possible for law school in and of itself to prepare you for every job that you will have in your career. I mean, think about this for a second. You know, I graduated a long time ago. And I graduated, you know, at the beginning of the Clinton administration in the 90s. Think about what the world was like in 1992, if you were alive in 1992. Just think about what that was like, all right? And think about what the world is like today, right? I mean, we are dealing with issues and challenges and opportunities that you could not have even imagined at the beginning of the Clinton administration, right? Okay, in the United States, right? And so I don't think the same is going to be true for those of you who go through the program here and you graduate and you go out into the world. And it will even be more so true for you because the world is changing more quickly today than it was even in the last, you know, several years. And so law school will not prepare you for everything that comes next. But what it will do, and this goes to your question, Dean, of what can a law school do? If you learn how to learn, that is the most important skill that you can possibly have. Learn how to learn new things. Learn how to be open to new things, and learn how to analytically be able to process information so that you can solve really difficult problems, right? You will never be prepared to have all of the answers, but you will certainly be prepared to approach those problems in a very significant way, in a way that will make a difference. I think that is actually the most important skill that you can have, because that allows you then to be able to be flexible to do many different things, because you've learned how to learn. Recommendations for those who want to work for the government. I think the most important thing is desire. I mean, I think governments all over the world need talent like the talent that's in this room. I mean, look, this is so. You know, I think the advice I would give is, you know, obviously having the desire and the ability, and I really would encourage everybody to spend a little bit of time in government. But look, I mean, this room, you know, sometimes it's as you're kind of like dealing with the day-to-day of being a student, you forget just how talented you are and sort of what this room represents to the world outside of these walls, right? I mean, this is, I mean, for you all, you know, being at this law school in particular and being able to bring to not just Brazil, although you will make a serious contribution to Brazil as it kind of pushes and pulls to become a great global and stable economy. But the skills that you'll bring, not just to the global south, although that'll be important, because, you know, given where this country is in Latin America, but the skills that you bring to the world, you know, employers will be seeking your talent, others will be seeking your talent. Your ability to actually present yourself to the world is greater now than in any other time in human history, because information, the barriers to information are so low. You know, there are no borders when it comes to what we know. Your ability to travel, the barriers to that are so low. So you have great opportunity to bring your talents and your skills and your intelligence and your energy and your drive to the world, a world that's hungry to get it. And always keep that in mind as you think about all of the variety of things that you can do with your life. I think the most important thing, and I'll just close with this, is that whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to go to a law firm, or you decide to go to public service or to government, whether you decide to be in a corporation in-house, or you decide to work for a nonprofit, a foundation doing great things in the world, make sure, and this goes back to you know, what we talked about, make sure you are always adding value to that community, to that ecosystem, to that environment that you're a part of. Make sure that no matter what that world is, what that circle is, you're actually bringing a great benefit and a value to it. And when you leave that environment, you leave it in better shape than when you found it. If you do that, you'll have a very successful and enriching career. I guarantee it. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is the thing that sort of that principle of, can I continue to make a difference in what I'm doing? And if the answer to that is yes, then you look for ways to make that difference. But for me, if I thought that I had gotten to a place where I had really contributed what I could contribute, and there were other places where I could make a significant difference, then I would decide to leave. Because again, I think that's the most important thing. If you have the opportunity to make a difference, that's going to be the most rewarding thing that you can do. All right? We have lots of snacks. Do not leave here without taking these snacks. It's nice to see you all. Nice to meet you all.
Okay. Well, I think it was a privilege for all of us. It's an amazing experience. You're being successful in every step of your life. So to share this with us, I think it was great. Obviously that we could stay here the whole afternoon making other questions. I had a list myself. How is to deal with a bunch of lawyers all around the globe, and this is perhaps a difficult thing to do. So thank you all for coming. And if, in certain moment you think you cannot add much to PepsiCo, we are open to you as a law professor. Thank you.